My name is Emily. And I drove 4 hours back to my parents' house for what my mother called a family holiday dinner. It wasn't even Christmas yet. She said it was easier this way. Everyone was free. Everyone could come. I almost turned around twice on the drive. But guilt has a way of keeping your foot on the gas. I showed up with a pie I made myself and a smile I practiced in the car. Dinner was loud. Football blaring. People talking over each other. Everyone pretending we were one big happy family. Then my mom stood up like she was hosting a game show. She brought out a bag of gifts. One by one, she handed them out. My dad got something expensive. My sisters got thoughtful, personalized gifts. Everyone laughed. Everyone hugged her. I waited. The bag emptied. She never looked at me. So I asked quietly, "Did I miss mine?" She didn't hesitate. "Be grateful you're even sitting here." My uncle laughed. "Yeah, at least we still remember your name." The table erupted. I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I just nodded and said, "Good to know." That night, I drove back alone. And I made a decision. Something was going to change. When I got home, I opened my banking app. That's when everything finally made sense. The gym memberships. The streaming accounts. The family phone plan. All those, "can you put it on your card?" moments that were never paid back. For years, I had been the quiet safety net. They could humiliate me in public, but they depended on me in private. So I stopped. No announcement. No warning. No drama. I just canceled everything. A few days later, my phone rang. My gym card was declined, my mom said. "Did you mess something up?" "No," I replied. "I just stopped paying." Silence. Then anger. "Family takes care of each other," my dad snapped later that night. "Exactly," I said. "It goes both ways." That's when the posts started. The guilt messages. The quotes about blood and loyalty. I muted all of it. Then they showed up at my door. Uninvited. Demanding. Angry. They said I owed them a conversation. They said I owed them respect. They said I owed them everything. I told them to leave. They didn't. So I called security. Then the police. And for the first time in my life, someone else said no to them. For the first time in my life, someone else said no to them. They stood there stunned. Like they couldn't believe the word applied to them. My mother looked at me like I had betrayed her. My father kept repeating, "This is unbelievable." The police told them they had to leave. No arguing. No speeches. No guilt. Just leave. They walked away angry, embarrassed, and silent. I closed the door. And then I slid down against it and breathed for the first time in years. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No calls. No messages. No surprise visits. Part of me waited for the guilt to come rushing back. It didn't. Instead, something else showed up. Relief. A week later, I heard through a cousin that things weren't going well. Bills were piling up. Subscriptions were gone. Plans were being canceled. The same people who laughed at me at that dinner table were now frustrated that things were suddenly so hard. Suddenly. My phone buzzed one evening. A message from my mom. Just one line. "We need to talk." I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I typed back, "I'm open to talking, but only with respect." 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. No reply. That's when I realized something important. They didn't miss me. They missed what I provided. And once I saw that clearly, I stopped trying to explain myself. Weeks passed. I started sleeping better, eating better, breathing better. I stopped flinching when my phone rang. I stopped rehearsing conversations in my head. I stopped feeling responsible for everyone else's comfort. One afternoon, another message came. This one was different. Short. Calm. Maybe we crossed some lines. It wasn't an apology. But it was the first crack in the wall. I didn't rush to answer. Because for the first time in my life, I wasn't afraid of losing them. I was finally afraid of losing myself again. I was finally afraid of losing myself again. So I waited. Days passed. Then weeks. No calls. No surprise visits. No public posts about loyalty or family. Just silence. And for the first time, the silence didn't hurt. It healed. One evening, I got an email. Not a message. Not a demand. An email. "We've had time to think," it said. "We didn't realize how much pressure we put on you. We shouldn't have embarrassed you." I read it 3 times. There was no excuse. No blame. No but. Just words that felt different. Not perfect. But real. I didn't rush to forgive. I didn't rush to respond. Instead, I asked myself a question I had never asked before. What do I want now? Not what would keep the peace. Not what would stop the guilt. What would keep me safe? A few days later, I replied, "I'm open to rebuilding. But slowly. With boundaries. No money. No favors. No public disrespect. Just conversation. Or nothing at all." They agreed. And something surprised me. When I stopped paying. When I stopped rescuing. When I stopped shrinking. They finally saw me. Not as a backup plan. Not as a wallet. But as a person who could walk away. We don't talk every day now. We don't pretend everything is perfect. But when we do talk, there's respect. And when there isn't, I leave. No arguments. No explanations. Just peace. That dinner still lives in my memory. The laughter. The humiliation. The moment I realized my place at that table. But it no longer defines me. Because I learned something important. You don't earn love by suffering. You don't prove loyalty by staying silent. And you don't owe access to people who only value you when you give. I didn't lose my family. I found myself. And that was worth everything. I thought the silence meant peace. I was wrong. Silence doesn't mean people have changed. Sometimes it just means they're regrouping. About a month after that email, my phone lit up with a number I hadn't seen in a while. My aunt. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail anyway. Her voice was soft. Careful. The kind of soft people use when they think they're being reasonable. "Sweetheart," she said, "your parents are really struggling. They're embarrassed. They're hurt. Everyone is confused. Maybe you could just come home for one dinner. No drama. No fighting. Just family." I stared at the phone. It sounded harmless. That's how it always starts. I didn't call back. 2 days later, my sister texted. Not angry. Not dramatic. Just one sentence. "Mom cries every night now." There it was. The old hook. The same one that had pulled me back in my entire life. For a moment, I felt it working. That familiar tightening in my chest. That urge to fix it. Then I remembered something my therapist said. Guilt is not the same thing as responsibility. So I replied with one sentence. "I'm not responsible for emotions created by their choices." She didn't respond. A week passed. Then another message came through. This time from my dad. No greeting. Just, "We raised you better than this." I almost laughed. Because that was the truth they didn't want to face. They did raise me better than this. They raised someone who worked hard. Someone who paid bills. Someone who took care of everyone else. They just didn't expect me to use those skills for myself. I didn't reply. Instead, I blocked the number. That night, I sat on my couch, wrapped in a blanket, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. No buzzing phone. No knot in my stomach. No rehearsing conversations in my head. Just quiet. A few days later, something unexpected happened. I got promoted. Nothing dramatic. No champagne celebration. Just my manager calling me into her office. And saying, "We've noticed how steady you've been under pressure. You handle things without panic. That matters here." I nodded. Thanked her. Walked back to my desk. But inside, something clicked. I had been trained for pressure my entire life. Just not the kind that should come from family. That night, I went out to dinner with Mia. We sat in a small restaurant, sharing fries, laughing about nothing important. At one point, she looked at me and said, "You seem lighter." I smiled. "I think I am." She raised her glass. "To choosing yourself." A few months passed. The family noise faded. No more posts. No more vague quotes. No more surprise messages. I heard through a cousin that my parents had started therapy. I didn't react. That was their journey, not mine. Then, one afternoon, I got another email. Shorter this time. No guilt. No blame. Just this. "We're learning a lot. We understand now that love without respect isn't love. We won't reach out again unless you invite us. I sat with that for a long time. Not because I didn't believe them, but because I finally believed myself. I realized something important. Closure doesn't always come from reconciliation. Sometimes it comes from knowing you could walk away and being okay if you do. I replied weeks later. Not emotionally. Not dramatically. Just honestly. I appreciate the message. I'm not ready yet. I'll reach out if that changes. And that was it. No argument. No explosion. No chase. Just acceptance. Today, my life looks different. I pay my bills and only mine. I spend holidays where I feel welcome. I leave conversations that feel disrespectful. And the biggest change? I no longer confuse endurance with love. That dinner still exists in my memory. The laughter. The moment I realized I was invisible. But now, when I think about it, I don't feel small. I feel awake. Because that night didn't break me. It showed me the truth. And the truth gave me my life back.